It's a busy day for me today. It's also a pretty chilly one. I'm currently walking from my house where I live over to my parents' house where I keep my van, and today I'm taking the van for MOT. So I'm halfway through my walk and I figured it was a good time to continue my story. Now you won't need to have watched last week's video to fully understand and get everything, but I will link it up in the corner up here just in case you missed it and want to catch up. So the last video ended with me failing one of my university modules for the second time and being presented with one final chance to pass. I'd have to resit the module the following year alongside all my second year work, and else I'd be kicked out of uni. So there were two things that happened that summer that really helped to shape my life and change the direction I was headed in. And I think it's important to look back every now and then and reflect on these forks in the road, these pivotal moments that change the course of your life. I came out of that first year at uni broke AF and I really needed to get some money in quick. So I found myself a summer job working as a temp working in a catering company. I had two jobs prior to this. I had a paper round when I was early teens, and then I worked in Halford's bike cut for a few years before going to uni. And I really enjoyed both of those experiences. This summer job was very, very different though. I'd wake up early and I'd get a taxi into town where I'd meet the rest of the people I was working with. We'd then board a coach and drive 2 to 3 hours to the venue where we'd be working for the day. We'd then be divvied out our jobs and we'd be sent to our various different stations, and we didn't start getting paid until we actually got to our station and started work. We might have already been out of the house for 4 hours already. The pay was abysmal. I think it was about £5 an hour, and we had to pay for the coach that took us to the event. Being one of the new members of staff there, I was given the most boring jobs out of everything. There was one day where my job was to carry ice from a freezer to a station, and then I had to grind it from ice cubes down into crushed ice. On another shift, I had to stand by a coffee machine all day, making sure it didn't run out of water for 14 hours. All this, and then you'd get home and you'd maybe have 5-6 hours rest before going back and doing it again the following day. It was awful, but it taught me a lot of good life lessons. Everything in life is based off your previous experiences, whether it's pain, boredom, hunger, cold, excitement. Everything's based off your past experiences of those emotions. And these boring times gave me something to regulate and gauge against in the future. So the next thing I was facing this summer was the prospect of getting kicked out of uni because of that failed module the year before. I was beginning to realise that I had never really put in enough effort into the work I was doing, and I was just coasting through life, letting things happen to me. I was never really taking the opportunity to seize them for myself. Summer wrapped up, I said goodbye to that awful job, and I went back to uni and hit work hard. And amazingly, I started seeing results almost immediately. I had more pride in my work, I was feeling accomplished, really proud of the work I was producing, and I was getting better grades as a result. I was really starting to immerse myself into graphic design, working hard and seeing the fruits of my labour. Because of my experience working the awful job over the summer, everything became a little bit easier too. Sitting in the library for 8 hours working at a desk is boring, yeah, but nowhere near as boring as grinding ice for 12 hours straight. I was working harder than I ever had before, really putting in the work and starting to see the fruits of my labour. I was becoming proud of the work I'd done and getting really into graphic design. By the end of my second year, I chose to upgrade my degree from a bachelor's in graphic design to a master's. Not only did this add on one more year of study, but it also meant I had to spend 5 months on a work placement within the industry. I spent some time searching around trying to find my ideal design agency to go and work in. If I wanted it to be big or small, the type of projects they were working on, or where it was based in the city or the country. And after a few weeks of applications and interviews, I finally got a place confirmed at my ideal agency. They were based in Bakewell, in the middle of the Peak District, overlooking a river and some trees. I really wanted to try and reconnect with nature after living in the city for the last few years, and saw this as a great opportunity of getting out into the national park every day. I took my new better improved work ethic of working my ass off into this placement and loved everything I was doing. It was really exciting to be working on real world briefs, given responsibilities, and then seeing your work come to life. It wasn't all good though, and I had a pretty savage commute to get there in the morning. I was still living in Sheffield and had to get an hour-and-a-half bus there and back every single day. And whilst I was doing this, I was working in a bar at the weekend. So on a Friday, I'd wake up and leave the house at 7 in the morning, work a full day in the design studio, get the bus home, eat, change, and then be working in a busy bar from 8 till 4 or 5 in the morning. Sometimes I'd work again on a Saturday night, rest Sunday, and then start the working week again. It was tiring and hard, but I was loving putting in all my effort into something and seeing rewards. As my placement grants were closed, the company turned around and offered me a job. At first part-time whilst I was still studying, but they extended it and said that they'd love to have me working there full-time once I'd graduated. Everything was finally starting to make sense to me. Hard work equals reward. I'd put everything I had into my education from the start of that second year onwards, and I was really starting to see the results. Not only was I going into my final year with real-world experience, but I also had a job in the industry lined up for when I graduated. It's really strange looking back and thinking about how my work ethic changed over that short space of time. I went from coasting along, trying the bare minimum and just scraping by, to really working hard at what I was doing, putting my everything into something, and then feeling the satisfaction in getting the results. Before too long, university came to a close, and I was then ready to move on to the next chapter in my adult life. I relocated to Bakewell and moved into a really cute old cottage built of stone and with great views over the surrounding hills. I got stuck into my new career, loving working in the real world, but as well as that I was also loving my hours outside of work as well. Every day I'd come home from work and get straight out for a bike ride or go for a hike or go take photos of sunset. I was just doing as much as I could do, especially after spending so many years in a city. Whilst I'd been studying at uni, my photography had taken a bit of a backseat. I'd made a few trips away with friends in the summers and holidays. I'd been to Snowdonia, the Lake District, and made my first trip to Scotland, but I hadn't been consistently taking that many photos, and this was a really refreshing time where I was able to get out, practice photography, and rediscover my love and passion for it. I don't know how it's taken this long to get here, but we're finally there, and I'm going to talk about Instagram. So I'd had Instagram for a few years at uni, and I used it to post the odd photo from our trip to Scotland, or whenever I was doing anything in the outdoors, I'd usually share some photos from that. And then when I moved to Bakewell and lived in the Peaks, I started taking a lot more photos, started posting more regularly, and because I was able to be out so much, I started getting beautiful golden light and really getting some images that I was proud of. I was really starting to find the passion and develop my skills further. I started posting on Instagram more and more regularly over time, and along with that, the likes and the followers started increasing too. This was giving me a really nice positive reward for that hard work I was putting in, going out, shooting, and it just increased from there. If you remember from the previous video, there was that time when I did a photo diary, taking one photo every day and posting it on an online blog. I really loved that experience, capturing moments and making yourself a diary of all the things you've done and all the things you've been up to and just recording it. And I decided I wanted to try and do that again. I set myself the personal challenge of posting one photo on Instagram every single day for a year. And on the 18th of September 2015, I posted a photo with the caption 1. From here on, I was going to be going out as much as I could do, taking photos every day, editing every day, and posting every single day. This was a huge learning curve for me, and investing that much time and effort into it really helped to progress me further and further. I was bringing that motivation and drive that I'd found in my second year at uni and just focusing it in on photography. I was still loving my career and my design job, but I now had this passion and this hobby I was doing outside of that I could really sink myself into. Before too long, the likes and the followers and the comments just started increasing, giving me that personal reward for all the effort I was putting in and reconfirming that fact that hard work does equal reward. I was having a really great experience living in the Peak District and loving the lifestyle I was living, but there were two things that were missing from my life still. The first was transport. I couldn't drive, and I definitely couldn't afford to pass my test or run a car. And the public transport in Bakewell was quite limited, especially if you're out trying to shoot sunrise and sunset. The second thing I was missing was friends. I didn't really know anyone when I moved there, and the population is quite small and old, so making friends and getting out with other people on walks and bike rides was difficult. But this didn't stop me. I just got very comfortable with going out on my own and putting in the effort for me. I'd get up early on a bike ride and go out for sunrise. I'd head out after work and shoot sunset into the night and then walk home in the dark. And at the weekend I'd go on solo trips, walking and hiking and wild camping in the peaks. I was still making ground and making movements forward despite not having travel or friends I could really spend much time with. I was finding Instagram a really good outlet for chatting to people, making friends and talking. So whilst I hadn't met anyone, I was speaking to people on a regular basis and feeling like I was getting to know them. I was posting on Instagram every single day using hashtags to try and build my profile, speaking to people and making connections. And before too long I started to get to know people in more detail, Just after Christmas, when I'd been living in Bakewell for around 6-7 months, I passed 1,000 followers on Instagram, and I was so stoked. I couldn't believe that many people liked seeing my photos enough that they wanted to follow me. It's such a strange thing looking back now how significant that milestone was, and how much it really helped to fuel this fire of photography that was burning inside me. Also around this time, I became aware of a few Instagram meetups that were happening in the Peak District, and I knew I had to get myself along to one. This was an opportunity for me to meet other people within the area who were out shooting photos. So I kept my eyes out, and before too long, I saw that there was one coming up nearby. So I've just dropped the van in for its MOT, and I've walked out of the noisy industrial estate to come and find some quiet and make a quick coffee while I'm waiting. I brought my jet ball with me so I can make a quick coffee, have a bit of a sit down. I'd seen that there was this Instagram meet of photographers nearby in the Peak District, and I mean I still had no transport. So I woke up early, ordered a taxi, and arrived in the middle of nowhere to meet some strangers at about 6 in the morning. It went really well, it was everything I wanted. We had an amazing time talking to some really similar-minded people, taking some great shots, and we had some amazing conditions. And over the next few months I went on more of these meets. I'd get the bus, I'd get the train, I'd cycle. Sometimes I'd even camp overnight the night before just so I could be there and make it happen. The dedication and passion I had for photography was taking a hold of me and consuming all my thoughts. I put more and more time into learning the photography game, learning all the different skills, cameras, developing, editing skills. I was also researching locations and discovering all the places in the world that I wanted to visit. Top of my list of places I wanted to visit was the Isle of Skye. I'd seen so many shots of it over the last few months and weeks that it had really fallen in love with the beauty of the place. I'd only been to Scotland once before, which was with some of my friends from home. We went to the Isle of Skye where we spent a week, and I'd already had that bug of Scotland, of this wild, remote and unique place that I was slowly falling in love with. But a trip to Skye was still the pinnacle of everything I wanted to do at the time. And that summer of 2016, I finally went with 2 of my friends from home. We spent a week driving around through Glencoe before hitting up Skye and doing all the major spots, living at the back of a 3-door Fiat Punto, wild camping at the side of the road, hiking out and staying in bothies, and just having an amazing time. I took hundreds of photos and came away with stuff that I was really, really proud of. My photography started to develop, and I was finally taking those images that make you stop and shake yourself and go, wow, did I really take that? Everything seemed to be moving so fast, and my skills and abilities were developing massively. I was starting to realise I actually had something going here. When I started this daily photo project, I was posting a photo from the day I'd taken it, but over time it shifted to me just posting good photos rather than a photo from that day itself. I don't really know when or why this happened, but I think it was just a desire to be posting good and consistent content rather than posting something based upon what the weather was doing on that day. My hard work was really starting to pay off, and I was starting to consider myself more as a photographer rather than someone who takes photos. By the end of the summer, I was reaching about 7,000 followers, and I was starting to get a few hints of professional interest in my work. I was having a few freebie t-shirts sent to me to photograph, and I even did a few interviews with some online magazines. I was starting to feel like I was onto something big. My photography was developing in ways that I hadn't previously seen, and my passion was just building momentum over time, growing and growing and growing, along with my Instagram account. It was around this time at the end of summer when I decided I needed to make a change. I'd come to that point where I wanted to force that fork in the road. I wanted something to happen. My time in the Peak District was feeling like it was coming to a close. And the Peak District's a beautiful, amazing place, and I love it a lot. But after living there for a year and a half, I was beginning to feel like my options were becoming limited. I wanted more. I'd got that travel bug from my trip to Scotland and wanted to see what else was out there. And I knew I couldn't achieve that by staying in the peaks. So it came to that time when I would have to force a fork in the road, make a decision that's going to impact my future quite severely, and it could go either way. It might be the right choice to make that led me on a path upwards and onwards, or it could be a wrong path that I have to turn around on and backtrack my steps. So I had some thinking to do, and I'm going to leave it there for this week. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've really enjoyed going back through my life and trying to think of the best way of presenting it, and trying to consider all of these important points in my life that act as the stepping stones and building blocks to lead me to where I am now. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like, drop a comment, let me know what you're thinking. And if you want to catch the next part of this story where I turn my passion into a career, subscribe so you can make sure you catch it. Hopefully the van passes its MOT, but I'm pretty sure it's going to fail. Because the van doesn't live at my house, I don't get to look at it every day, and I'd actually forgotten that a few months ago I knocked the wing mirror and broke one of the indicators. Fuck's sake. Just had some minor wing mirror collision. So I'm pretty sure it's going to fail, and I'm going to have to make this journey again next week to go for the retest. I'm going to enjoy my coffee, get back and see how it's done. I'll catch you all next week.